Welcome into the Frogs Today pregame show live here at Schollmaier Arena. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Amrick Fields, getting you ready for the Horned Frogs to take on the Baylor Bears at 3 p.m. on ESPNU. Amrick, this is a game featuring two teams that are seemingly trending in opposite directions lately. The Frogs have lost 3 out of their last 4. Meanwhile, Baylor has won 8 out of their last 9. They've got some guys back in the mix now that are playing really well for them. But when you come into a rivalry game like this, I want to start right here today. What is the mindset for the Horned Frogs trying to kind of correct the slide they've been on against a rival opponent?
I think they just got to come out energetic. I know that they've kind of been on the downfall against K-State. They've had a rough game that way. And nothing seemed to really go easy against K-State. It seemed like a struggle the whole game. So I think the more energy they come out on defense is kind of how they turn things around early.
You know, when you think about where this team has been over the last week and a half without Mike Miles, they're without Mike Miles again tonight. You said they looked like they just got behind the 8 ball against Kansas State and could never recover. How do they adjust without their scoring leader? We've seen them struggle offensively, even though guys have had, Emmanuel Miller scored 17 one game. Shahada Wells has been scoring pretty well. Xavier Corp stepped up in a big way, but it doesn't seem that they've found any kind of consistency on that end of the court. Why do you think that is?
Right. And I don't know. It's kind of weird because, like you said, I've seen a lot of consistency out of a lot of different people on the Frogs, and up until this game, it seems like that kind of shut off. But I think how they get back on pace here, especially with Miles being out, is picking up the pace with Damian Ball. He's more than capable. I know Miles is kind of the orchestrator as far as I call him a wolf pack because the way they get up and down the floor is aggressive. I mean, when they're healthy, there's almost like a pack of wolves. But I feel like with Miles out, I feel like Damian he's more than capable of leading that. And he's so fast and he's so good around the rim. So I think getting him going will kind of turn things around early as far as easier points in the beginning instead of struggling in the half-court scenario.
I totally agree, and I agree, too, that Damian Ball has to kind of be the catalyst for this offense moving forward. He's such a dynamic scorer.
And he can do it.
And he's such an incredible passer, too. Yeah. He leads the team in assists per game this year, and not by a small margin, which is pretty impressive when you consider the other guards that are on the roster.
Right.
He's long, he's athletic, he's incredibly fast. He's got to step up into that all-star role, absolutely. We remember, of course, the last time these two teams met, TCU came back from a 17-point deficit in the second half down in Waco to upset the Bears 88-87. Hopefully, the Frogs don't get down in a hole. We've seen them get down in a hole the last couple of games, and they haven't been able to work their way back like we've liked to see them. Like we said, Mike Miles is out today with that right knee hyperextension, but Frog fans, he's getting closer to returning. He practiced in a limited way on Friday afternoon with the team. He was out there running, doing some of the half-court drills, shooting drills, but he did not play in some of the more physical aspects of practice yesterday. They're hopeful, though, that he'll be able to go on Wednesday when the Frogs travel to Iowa State. Eddie Lampkin, who's been playing in limited minutes for the last 3 or 4 games as well, dealing with that high ankle sprain that he suffered at Kansas, is also out today. He will not be going for the Horned Frogs, so we're going to have to see a lot more Xavier Cork, Amrick, without Eddie on the court today.
Who I like.
Yeah.
Who I like.
He's a
I
great
like
player.
him a lot. Yeah, so I love Eddie. I really do. I think he's coming a lot in this game. I think that he's hard to handle down low, especially with his size. And as he matures a little bit in his game, he'll be really, really tough to handle in the future. But Cork's got some moves. I know that he can't always put it all together at the right times, I feel like. But when he's solid, I really like his game.
Well, I mean, how much of that not being able to put it all together is minutes versus ability?
That's a great question. And as a player, I feel like you can battle both as an argument because you need minutes to be consistent. But you also need to prove that you're consistent to get minutes. So a coach goes along
it's a chicken and the egg.
So a coach goes along with these dilemmas of how to kind of get that out of you within a small time frame to prove that you're consistent. But I like his game. I like what he believes. He's athletic too. I like him.
He's not as big as Eddie, obviously, but he has some really good footwork in the paint. He does have some good post moves. Another guy that we've seen stepping into that 5 role when Jamie Dixon wants to go into a smaller lineup is Jacoby Coles, who's capable of He's got a little bit of a back-to-the-basket game, but he's really more of a shooter, more of a stretch guy.
Yeah. He'll pull it.
When you think about the dynamics between Coles and Cork in Eddie Lampkin's absence, what do you like about that? But what kind of difficulties and challenges does that create for the Frogs as well?
I just feel like you. I'm sorry, my friend Thomas Montague. he was in the back. Give me a face. Great guy, by the way. But I feel like you get a little bit of variety out of two different players with Jacoby Coles and with Cork. But I think the big thing is that you have a little best of both worlds within two players. You have Jacoby Coles that can spread the floor really well. He shoots it. He's very streaky. I think I kind of like his streakiness almost like a J.R. Smith. When he's hot, he is hot.
Yes.
But when he's cold, it's really cold. But I think if he can find that medium and get a little bit more consistent, but I like him out there. I like what he does out there, and I like him with Cork, splitting minutes and kind of finding that in between to make up for Lampkin.
I think the key to Coles, based on what I've watched him do this season, because first of all, he's transformed his body. He looks much more fit this year than he did a year ago. That's a shout out to Gary Christopher, the new strength and conditioning coach, who's done a tremendous job with this team, getting them ready to run the court like they've been running it this year. But another thing I think with Jacoby that is kind of a key that he can grow into is that dribbling, that kind of creating his own shot off the dribble. Because he's so good in the catch and shoot situation. He's so good at moving off the ball and getting to his spot. If he can add just a little bit of that, step back dribble, mid-range jump shot game that we see guys his size playing a lot with these days, I think that's going to be the thing that kind of takes him to the next level. And we've seen him start to experiment with that as he's gotten more minutes over the last couple of weeks.
That's the new wave evolution. Especially at that size. Before I got hurt, I feel like that's kind of the thing that I was trying to step into, but it's hard for a bigger player, to do that, especially to move at that size. When you've been playing 5 and 4 your whole life and transition to a 3, it's a whole different game. I mean, it's a whole new world too. So he can be dangerous as a stretch 4, but if he expands his game too, I would love to see him try to explore the 3.
I mean, we're seeing him asked to do 3 responsibilities. We're seeing him asked to do things all the way down at the 5 as well. So he's definitely getting that range of experience, if nothing else. But we're going to continue our pregame show in just a few moments here on Frogs Today, frogstoday.com. Before we go to break, though, I want to remind everyone to make sure that you're subscribed over at frogstoday.com. Subscribe and like the YouTube channel. Like this video right here. Let us know what you love about it in the comments so that every time we go live, you get a notification so that you don't miss anything related to TCU and TCU athletics. We're going to continue the pregame show as we get you ready for the Horned Frogs to take on the Baylor Bears right after this break.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Welcome back into the Frogs Today pregame show. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Amric Fields, getting you ready for the Horned Frogs to take on the Baylor Bears at 3 p.m. Tip-off is on ESPNU. Last time the Frogs and Bears met down in Waco, TCU came away with the 88-87 win, but things are going to look a lot different today than they did in that game. Amrick, no Mike Miles, no Eddie Lampkin for the Horned Frogs. And meanwhile, for the Baylor Bears, they've got a freshman guard in Keontae George who's been playing out of his mind during this winning streak for the Bears. He's averaging 20 points per game over their last 4. And he's just a really dynamic kid, even coming in as a freshman.
Yeah, and it's scary that he's on this tear at this point because, us being down a couple players, which is also some very key players, it's scary. But also, like I said, I have a lot of trust and a lot of faith in Damian Baugh. Not really. I'm worried, but I'm not extremely worried about it. I'd love to see the matchup. It's going to be a good one.
You don't have a fully healthy Micah Peavy in that last game for the Horned Frogs as well when they played the Bears down in Waco. He's back, and Jamie Dixon consistently touts him as the best defender on this team. I think we're going to see a lot of that Keontae George, Micah Peavy matchup today.
Yeah, I talk a lot with my friend Thomas, who's on the coaching staff, too.
Yeah.
Me and him going back and forth about coaching ideas. I love to pick his brain. He's a great guy to learn from, too. But I compliment Peavy a lot, and I love to see that he's back. He's one of the great highlight points of this team moving forward. I love to see that he was in double digits last game, I believe, against Kansas State. And he's a bright spot. Him being able to guard 1 through 3, being able to switch, and even come on a 4 is dangerous.
Yeah.
I love his versatility, and he's just now getting comfortable shooting the 3. He was just stepping into that before he got hurt, and now back. A lot of guys are still leery, or I feel like a lot of fans and people are still leery of him shooting a 3, but I feel like he was getting consistent and very comfortable with it before he got hurt.
Yes, and that's something that we've seen in practice week over week over week is that the coaching staff is encouraging him to shoot when he's open. I was at practice on Monday of this week.
He's got great form, too.
He does. He's got a great shooting mechanic. He's going to start seeing that ball fall through the net, and once you start seeing that, your confidence grows naturally. As a shooter, you start wanting to take it more. But I was at practice this week on Monday, and they were running a couple of their sets that we know pretty well, Fist, and a couple of the other ones. L was another big one that they were running. But all the time in those sets, Micah's open from the wing.
Yeah.
And every single time he was passing it down into the corner, passing it to a big man down low. And at one point, Dixon blew his whistle, stopped down practice, and got in Micah's face, not in an angry way, but just said, I need you to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
When you're open, shoot the ball.
Because it opens everything else up. Yeah. I mean, when he's dangerous from out there, now Lampkin has the space and the ability to receive a post pass. And now he's able to cut through. When he's not, that guy is able to sink back, and there's 2 people on him almost. And it's, it shuts down the post in the sense of that. So I feel like when he's so aggressive from 3-point, it opens up everything else. And like I said, he's got great form. It's a confidence thing. Yeah. It's a confidence and repetition thing. I think it'll come.
Yeah, and when you think about confidence, too, it has to give you confidence when your coach is stepping in the middle of practice and telling you he wants you to shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
Like, just to have that vote of confidence from your head coach has to be a big thing.
Yeah, that's the ultimate green light right there. I feel like it's when you have your coach stopping practice and literally making it a point, not only to you, but in front of everyone, that you need to shoot the ball, that's a big point.
Yeah. Baylor's getting back a pretty key piece of their team today, though, too. We've talked a lot about Mike and Eddie being out for the Frogs, but Jonathan Chachua is back for Baylor. This is his 3rd game back, coming back from a pretty significant knee injury that he had about this time last year for the Baylor Bears. He was the 2022 Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in spite of missing a significant portion of last season, which is a testament to his game. But, Amrick, based on your own injury history and experience, when you see a guy like Jonathan coming back, and he played 13 minutes against Tech, he played 21 minutes against West Virginia over the weekend, he's probably going to have an even more expanded role today against TCU. What is it like working your way back from that injury, not only physically, but really kind of mentally starting to trust that knee again?
Oh, man. I could write a book about this. You got time?
Oh, yeah.
The big thing, I think, also with Mike Miles, too, this comes to my mind when I think about this, through my own experiences, is you can't get frustrated on the time limit that you set for yourself and you don't make that time. If things aren't escalating and proceeding the way that you want within a time frame that you expected for yourself, don't rush it. just because you didn't make 1 week or 2 weeks and your body's telling you no, don't rush it and make it say yes. That's the big thing. And I think anytime that you get under that 80%, to me is scary. I mean, you can ask any D1 player, I think, that you talk to, or anybody that plays collegiate sports, even high school, I would say. You're never 100%. You're always battling through a rolled ankle, a dislocated finger, a bruised whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could go on and on. So I give that 20% some leeway. But when you get below 80%, I think you need to start asking your body questions as far as, can I do what I needed to do within a time of a game and perform the way that I need it to?
You know, and some of that's just time, right? I think when, like you said, you can't push yourself if your body's just not ready, if your body's telling you no. But I think with him, one of the biggest, most interesting things about him is just his size versus his athleticism. A lot of his game is based on being able to trust that knee to jump and to run and to plant and to pivot.
Yeah.
And when there's maybe a little bit of that trust is gone in that knee, how much does that impact just hesitating even when you're on the court?
For an athletic player, it's huge. And talking from being one myself and going through multiple knee injuries, it's harder to get buckets. It's harder to play multiple positions. It's harder to play the course of a game, too, if you're not able to trust literally one side of your body.
Yeah.
So I put knees along with ankles, back, and kind of necks, and kind of all in that category, those major joint parts. When those are compromised within specialty sports, it's extremely hard to come back from. So if you don't rehab right and get the muscles around it strong, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So being Defensive Player of the Year and him coming back and being on the Terry is, you admire that. You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you do, right? Because it's really good. And I know Baylor's a rival, and you don't want to see them have the success that TCU has. But you don't want kids to get hurt. You don't want to see their careers take a turn because of the injuries that they face. And I think, too, what you've noted about his knee injury is also something that we can take away about Mike's injury, about Eddie's ankle. And I know that TCU fans are probably a little bit frustrated with the current 2-game losing streak. But at the same time, we've seen this year what can happen when the Frogs are at full strength.
Yeah.
We've seen what the Frogs can do when Mike's in the lineup, when Eddie's in the lineup. It's terrifying, and everybody's going to be sweating the Frogs when it comes tournament time. But that's one of the reasons I think that this coaching staff has done such a tremendous job of letting those guys kind of dictate when they come back.
Yeah.
Because they've been checking in every day with Mike and with Eddie after they do treatment, after a practice, whatever it might be, to say, how are you feeling? What's your body telling you? And if you don't feel like you can go, you're not going to go. Because at the end of the day, they have, beyond even just tournament aspirations for this team, both of those guys have professional aspirations as well.
Right.
And you've got to do right by that player to make sure that their long-term career stays intact.
I was talking to somebody the other day, like, we're in it for the end game, like Avengers, the end game. Like, we're playing for the long haul. We're not in it for the short haul. And for a collegiate athlete, it's hard to think about that because the time is in front of you right now. You're trying to seize the moment right now. You worked your butt off right now to be able to get that opportunity. So to not grasp it and not get it, it's hard to sit back.
Yeah.
It is.
It really is. But they are going to have to sit back today and watch the Frogs take on Baylor. One of the things before we go to our next break here is I want to talk about the Bears' three-point shooting. They're the best three-point shooting team in the Big 12. They've also attempted more than 100 threes more than the second-best shooting team in the Big 12. So it's a volume and it's a percentage situation for the Frogs, which is for the Frogs to try and defend today, which means that there's going to be a lot of defensive pressure on Damian Baugh, on Micah Peavy, even on guys like Emmanuel Miller to really step out onto the perimeter.
1 through 4 is in for a long game.
I mean, when you approach a team like that, and you played with some shooters in the Mountain West too, were you talking about kid at BYU? Yes.
Shimmer.
You had some kids on San Diego State that could shoot the lights out of the ball. New Mexico could shoot the ball. And then obviously your time in the Big 12 too. Guys, there were shooters across the league. When you come across a team that's as hot from three as the Baylor Bears are, do you almost compromise defending the paint to just make sure you're running them off the three-point line, or how do you approach that defensively?
Well, I think that's what makes Baylor a little bit dangerous because they do have some size, and they do have some size 3 through 5. So even their wings are a little bit big. So I think you just play them solid. I think you have to always guard protect paint within and then spread out. But when you close out, we have to have short closeouts. I mean, we have to be there on the catch and make them uncomfortable to be able to shoot those threes. Because if they get comfortable early and they hit a couple big ones early, I feel like it'll be a long night.
Well, hopefully it's not a long night, but the Frogs do have to do a tremendous amount on the defensive side of the ball. They've also got to get right offensively without Mike Miles and Eddie Lampkin for this game. They got to figure out how to get some consistency getting the ball in the basket. We're going to come right back after this break, though, here on the Frogs Today pregame show. We're going to give you our picks to click today on both ends of the court for the Horned Frogs, our final thoughts, and a score prediction before we let you go watch TCU take on the Baylor Bears on ESPNU. We'll be right back.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Welcome back into the Frogs Today pregame show. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Amric Fields. We're live Schollmaier Arena as the Horned Frogs get ready to take on the Baylor Bears in conference play. You know, Amric, this is the second time these teams have met this year. It's the second time both teams have been ranked this year. And it's the second time in the history of this basketball rivalry that both teams have been ranked at the time that they've played. It's a little odd to me that there's so much history in this rivalry, and yet this year is the first 2 times that both teams have been ranked when they've been playing each other.
That is weird. I would have to agree with you because the teams, especially as of lately within the Frogs, Jamie has been able to turn this program around. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we've been ranked, I don't know, the last 5 years at some point. So for them to not be being ranked, it's a little weird to me too, actually.
When you think about the nature of this rivalry, not just with basketball, but across all sports, though, it's just another layer on top of 2 schools that really just want to beat each other, don't you think? I mean, you were a part of this rivalry for a few years now, and is it different when you're taking the court knowing you're playing Baylor than maybe when you're playing somebody else?
It is, because I feel, especially me playing at the beginning of the Mountain West, we came in and everybody wanted to prove, especially within Texas, that they were the Texas team. You know, you're the new guy on the block. You know, you think you're coming here. There's Texas, there's Baylor, you know, all these other teams, even in different conferences that show their strength. You know, Texas A&M, it's such a huge state that they were trying to make a point. So it was always competitive when we played them. There was always I feel like we had a couple fights back in the day. I feel like it's always referees coming in, you know, talking to people. I'm excited to see it. I like the guys getting a little chippy.
It'll be good. And you know, when you get the blood pumping a little bit, get the rivalry involved, you give it a little bit of extra effort. But we know that the Frogs are going to be without Mike and Eddie today. And with that in mind, who for you is a player on the Frogs that needs to step up offensively in order for TCU to come away with the win today?
I think definitely with those two being out, Cork has got to be great.
Yeah.
He's got to be good. And when I say great within himself. I'm not expecting him to get 20 and 20. That's not something that I think Jamie is expecting him to do either. Yeah. But I do expect him to play the way that he is capable of playing within the time frame that he is allowed. Yeah. So I think he's easily a 10 and 8 guy, with the capabilities that he has. And especially, I know that you've sat in on some practices. I sat on some practices last year, and I saw him. And in practice, you're like, wow, this guy.
Yeah.
And, he gets in a game, and I think a little stage fright happens. I think he's a little in his mind. Mm-hmm. But I think he's got to be good. And I would like to see Jacoby Jacobs.
Yeah.
I would like to see him step up. And I would like to see him. I know we can expect 1 to 2 threes out of him at any given moment. But I would like to see him around the rim a little bit.
Sure.
But those two I would like to see for sure.
Yeah, I think for me it's Shahade Wells.
Okay.
We've seen him break out a couple of different times since the Kansas game. He's averaging, I think, around 11, 12 points a game since that showing where he scored 17 against the Jayhawks. But for TCU to get the most out of Damian Baugh, they've got to take pressure off of him in some ways. And what Mike Miles presents for opposing defenses is such a handful that it allows guys like Baugh, Jacoby Coles, Manuel Miller to play a little bit more one-on-one, to move a little bit more in space without the ball. But when you take Mike Miles out of the equation, you need someone else who's coming in and capable of doing that to an extent. Now, you're not going to be able to replace Mike's production with one guy.
You're right.
But I think if you're asking Shahade Wells to go out and take open shots, make the right pass, and then work off the ball a little bit more, then that's going to open things up for guys like Damian Baugh to create and be the dude on that side. So look for Shahade Wells
and sneaky
to
athletic,
have an impact, very athletic,
sneaky athletic.
Sneaky at this point after the dunk we saw him put on that kid from Jayhawks.
I don't know if I was expecting that. Were you?
No, I was not.
He said after that game. Yeah, there was no doubt he posterized that guy.
I mean, he said after that game that he wanted to dunk the first time he had a layup, a couple minutes before that dunk, and then he got the ball again. He's like, well, I have to throw it down this time. And
it was nasty. Yeah, it was nasty. Yeah.
So look for Shahade Wells to hopefully have a big offensive game for the Frogs today. They definitely need him to step up in that way. Defensively, though, we've talked about Baylor's three-point shooting abilities, but also their size on their front court. Who's someone that TCU needs defensively today to step up so the Frogs can win?
I think obviously with those two guys out, you got to have a good post presence to protect the rim. Mm-hmm. But I would also like to see Emmanuel Miller get his hands dirty at the forward position.
Okay.
I don't really see them have an extreme threat at that position.
Yeah.
As far as their backups as well. So I think if he can really get down and lock up that position and offensive rebound as well at that position, which is something that they didn't do against K-State, which is a lot of production comes off of them running and offensive rebounding. They get a lot of easy buckets like that. So I think if he's able to produce that'll take a little bit of pressure off the ball too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, the guy is Chuck O'Bannon.
Yeah,
you've got he's your starting three. We've seen him improve his rebounding numbers this year. He's improved defensively this year, but he needs to take another step forward, I think, today because of he's going to be in that spot where he's going to have to be concerned both with the three-point shooting and with getting down and crashing the boards a little bit and helping with rebounding. So he's going to be a guy that's critical, I think, defensively, just because he's going to have to kind of split his attention and also not get caught in no man's land, which is so easy to do when you're trying to pay attention to multiple things.
Yeah, his game makes me smile. Yeah. As soon as you start talking about his game makes me smile because he's one of those dudes that I feel like I can show up at your local park.
Yeah.
And this guy has got kind of a game like his, but obviously not as good, not as athletic, not as refined, but there's a similar game. He's got an old school, his jumper, the way it's constructed. I love it. So when you started talking about it, I was like, I love to see him get off because his game makes me smile. And from what I understand, too, talking to Thomas, too, he's a good kid.
He's a very good kid.
He's a good kid.
He's almost you almost can't call him a kid anymore. He's in his 6th year. He's 23 years old.
Yeah,
for us, he's still a kid.
We're getting up there. These are kids now to us.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we know his shooting ability, too, right? He's got the funny mechanics, but the ball still goes in, so that is what it is. But if he can step up defensively today and help lock down some of these shooters and contribute in the rebounding game for the Frogs, I think they're going to be okay, even without Mike and Eddie on the court. But as we wrap up the pregame show here, Amric, first and foremost, thanks for coming on. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bingo comes back, we'll squeeze in here, all three of us, and talk hoops. But before we let you go today, give me your score prediction, your final thoughts on how this game's going to go.
Okay, but before I get into that, my kids would kill me if I didn't do this. I would like to say hi to my kids out there, Roman and Mila. They are 5 and 2. I didn't talk about them last time I was on air, so hi, you guys. But okay, so let me get into my predictions here. I think that, believe it or not, I think we're going to be down at halftime, but I think we're going to end up on top by 3.
Okay.
So I'm going to go 85. 82.
85-82.
Yeah,
Horned
slow
Frog
math
win.
there. Man, I got that TCU education. It was kicking in slow.
There you go.
I
like it. So, all right. Hey, Frogs on top, 85-82. It's a high-scoring affair, but it seems like they all are these days in the Big 12. I think it's going to be a little lower. I think, you've seen some scoring inconsistencies from the Frogs.
Really?
And I think that, defensively, that's where they have to win this basketball game. When you don't have your leading scorer, when you're missing your big post presence, you've got to lock down defensively, maybe muddy some things up a little bit, and that'll help them get out in transition, let Shahade Wells, let Damian Ball cook in open space a little bit. Give me the Frogs to win, no doubt, because I'm a homer first. I'm a Frog fan first.
Yes.
But I think it'll be a little bit of a lower scoring affair. Give me TCU 72, Baylor 68.
Okay. Yeah. No, I could agree with that totally. I would love to see the Frogs play with great pace again.
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like we slowed that down when Miles was out.
Mm-hmm.
But Ba, like I said, is more than capable of pushing this team the way that they need to be pushed and get out in the open floor. So I would like to see them score as many as possible with rebounding the basketball.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for Amric Fields, I'm Jamie Plunkett. This has been the Frogs Today pregame show. Don't forget, we're going to do a post-game show, too. So as soon as the Frogs end up on top of the Bears in this one, come right back to the Frogs Today YouTube channel and frogstoday.com. Check us out. We'll be breaking down all of the aspects of the game for you. A coach and player might be by as well if the Horned Frogs come away with the win. But until then, tune in. ESPNU at 3 p.m. is when the Frogs and Bears tip off, and we'll see you after the game.